Yeah, we're live. It's 6:30. I'm here early. Hopefully, everyone's not. Isn't there? There's some kind of game or something on tonight, some sort of playoff game. I am not watching that right now, but hopefully, we'll see what you guys are doing tonight. I want to talk about. I'm going to be showing you a small block Chevy that we ran, and actually, this was a small block Chevy that belonged to the guys at West Tech Performance, and it's pretty cool because it's a 372 stroker small block. So it's a big bore short stroke ish combination that everybody loves, and it's now I think I'd need to go back and ask them and see. We'd have to basically finalize the tally on all of the runs that were ever been run on the West Tech the original Gladiator, which was a small block 350, and which I think started out as a ZZ4 GM crate motor. But then it was, I mean, it had run for years and years and years, and I'm sure it had thousands of dyno pulls on it. Then that was replaced. It was kind of put out the pasture, put out the stud, because the thing had, done a lot of service because they'd done a lot of testing with it. And so they got another Gladiator, obviously aptly named the Gladiator 2, and that was a Dart motor. So it was a Dart block, and it was a 4125 bore, and it turned out to be 372 inches. So it was an SHP block that they did, and I'll go ahead and show you some of the parts here. So we can talk about that. So this is a kind of these are all the photos of the combination, but it had like I said, it was 372 inches. It had a pretty good sized camshaft in it. It was a hydraulic roller. It had a 242, 248 hydraulic roller camshaft in it. This was a comp. It had airflow research, AFR 195 heads on it. CNC ported eliminator heads. They were good. It had a Super Victor for this test. They'd run a bunch of them. They'd even run the composite airflow research manifold, which always did well. It had a big carburetor. We'll go ahead and we'll run that through again. It had a big 950 carburetor for this test. It had their 1.75" head dyno headers that they always run. It had, these were comp stainless roller rockers on it, an MSD distributor, and kind of the normal stuff. And that motor's always run good. That 372 has always worked well. Like I said, it now has, I'm sure, thousands of tests on it, because whenever somebody says, hey, look, can we run a small block? Can we test heads on it? Can we test intake manifolds on it? Can we test rockers or camshafts or all, whatever people want to test on a small block? That's kind of the go-to test. And it's nice that it's big enough to be able to want like good sized cylinder heads and good sized camshafts and intake manifolds and stuff. But yet, even as a 372, if you're to run milder things on it, it'll still give you an idea what they're kind of going to do. It's funny that we joke about or at least I do joke about the bore and stroke relationship and all that stuff. Hey, is this better? And the argument for this kind of thing is a 372 better than a 383? Like, is the big bore shorter stroke better than what is kind of the reverse? More stroke, and then the smaller bore, like a 4030 bore rather than the 4125. Which one of those is better? In the end, it doesn't matter. They're both really good. There's no bad choice there, because a stroker, the bigger displacement motor, is just going to be better. And even with a 4-inch bore or a 4030 bore, you still have, I don't know, 20 or 30 different cylinder heads to choose from. So like I said, there's not a bad choice there. But let's take a look. I'll go ahead and show you. So we'll go through if you guys want to look at that. And then what we did was we ran the motor naturally aspirated the way that we do. This thing even had a crank trigger on it, so that they could do, mostly for that, so they could do lots of cam swaps without worrying about the distributor position and stuff. But you can see all the parts on it. But what we did is run an inexpensive Sniper Nitrous kit on it. So it was adjustable from 7500 to 125. I think we ran 125 on it, 125 shot on it. And I'll show you the dynograph here. So you can see it went from 535 horsepower, which is what it made naturally aspirated, and like 475 or so foot-pounds of torque. It did good. And then that jumped up to 651 horsepower. And let's see, I think the peak torque was 570 500, about almost 570 foot-pounds. And Brule did this, and we were obviously engaging this thing later. Now you can engage it whenever you want. In this RPM range from 3,500 to 7,000, you can see this thing's pulling out pretty good to 75 to 7,000 RPM. You could even engage it at 3,500. We've done lots of them where we've engaged them at 4,000 for these tests because they wanted this motor had 2,000 pulls on it or whatever. They probably didn't want to subject it to a whole bunch of, abuse. But, the guys that are running nitrous hit it. Sometimes they hit it off the line. I mean, just hitting on the lead, man. Let's go. Let's party. Let's get things done. But on this test, we hit it later on. But it still shows you the kind of gains that we get from nitrous. And with Brule, we always went through the procedure where we test the nitrous flow and the fuel, or at least the fuel flow. Test that while it's operating. So we want to make sure that we don't have a big drop in pressure, so that the pressure is consistent. We have a separate fuel feed for this carbureted setup, and we jet it accordingly, just so that we get from the nitrous feed, for the fuel solenoid, we get a consistent amount of fuel flow, so that when we're tuning, there's no variation in that while we're trying to do this. And when we do that, and we have a consistent amount of nitrous flow with a full bottle and stuff, we just get a nice curve on the power gains, because if you add 100 horsepower, it should just railroad track and add 100 horsepower everywhere. If we add 100 horsepower way down low, obviously we get big torque numbers. But if we add 100 horsepower and it just stays steady all the way, we know that we've done our job in, getting the kind of most out of that kit. And that's what you want to see. If you hit it with a 100 shot, you want to see 100. You hit it with a 125 shot, you want to see 125. And the way that you don't do that is have the thing be excessively rich, or if you have to take away a bunch of timing. Honestly, I think we ran good gas on this. I don't even know if I don't think we took any timing out of this, because a lot of times for a 100 shot, if we've got, 100 octane in, or a mixture of 91 and 100, we don't even pull in timing. That's fine. It's not going to hurt itself. And then the air fuel on this thing is like in the high 11s for this test. And so that's all of that's safe, and, it's not going to hurt anything. But good, good power curves. And then what you end up with is a 650 horsepower small block, which, let's face it, that would be a lot of fun in a lot of different kinds of cars. Whether you had it in a truck or a Camaro or Chevelle or whatever you had it in, it would be a fun deal. And then it being a bigger displacement, bigger than your typical average 350, it just makes it even better. And if you wanted to go nuts, because for you rod ratio guys or you bore and stroke ratio guys, if you wanted to go crazy, you got a 4-125 bore. Obviously, it will swallow lots of cylinder heads. So if you want to put a solid roller camshaft in it, and a really big cylinder head, big valves and all that, maybe some offset rockers because of the way that they're doing it, you could, there's enough displacement there. And it was a flat top piston with valve relief, so you could get enough camshaft in it as long as you have a something other than a candid valve head or something odd, some sort of race head. But for most of the production heads, you could put something pretty big in a 4-125 bore. It's still going to work. Spin it up, and all of a sudden you're making lots of power. You add nitrous to it, and you're making even more power. Let's see what you guys got going on here. Let's see. We'll add our sniper setup. You can see it was when you see the photos here, you can see it was a simple plate system. When we get to the plate system, I'll go ahead and pause this. Airflow Research has, like I said, CNC ported 64 or 65 cc chambers, stainless rockers on it. Super Victor 950. And then see, this is our plate system. It's just a simple 2-bar plate system. One of them's feeding the nitrous, one of them's feeding the fuel. Small solenoids, again, adjustable up to 125. Running it on the dyno. You can see these are the dyno headers. It had a 2-piece timing set or a 2-piece front cover on it. That one back then had a rattler damper on it, which probably, looking at it, I would be curious to see now that we had run, because we ran a bunch of those back in the day. I'd be curious to see if those would set off a knock sensor. I wonder what the frequency of that is now that we're looking at that and haven't done some of that stuff. I would sure like to see if that would set off a. It would be interesting to see if it would set off a knock sensor. Let me know what you guys think. But we'll see what you guys got going on. So So you guys let me know in the comments. I'll just ask some questions. Is the 372 or 377 better than the 383 stroker? Is a 372, 377, just depending on what bore size you have, better than the 383 stroker? Let me know. Scroll back, get some comments going. Last night, the guys that were on the live feed with Chad, what happened was the power went off in our area and shut everything off in the house, and then I was later on, it came back on. I was able to come back on and then exit out of the live feed, but I couldn't do that while it was shut off. So unfortunately, I was not able to do that. But we'd gone a long time anyways. We'd gone like an hour and 45 minutes already. So it's not like we didn't have a lot. We didn't already cover a lot. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the time with Chad. He's a good guy. Brad, Knowledge, Surfer Jag, DMC. I'll be ordering some more cams soon. I have 3 customers that want LS swaps. Cool. Let me know. Bigfoot, if you get 3 of them, send me an email. We'll get you a deal, man. Jet Black, Oliver, what's going on? I love the thumbnail. There. Good morning from Wales. What's going on, Richard and crew? How are you guys doing? I'm doing good. I have a 351 Windsor with a leaky head bolt. Low driver's side nearest the firewall. Does it need thread sealant? Yes, but I thought that is the 351 not a blind hole though? Am I not remembering right? I know a 302 goes into water. If it does, we either use a head bolt or we obviously put thread sealant on the studs. Received my cam parts yesterday. Wizard, thank you. Thanks for the order, man. Australia's in the house. Cliff, what's going on, man? Curtis, please respond. Please be patient. I have a discussion that goes like 10 minutes or so at the beginning. Shirt came in the mail. All right, Bullet, I'm glad. Southern Hemisphere is awesome this time of year. That's great. Ragtop, what's going on, man? Yesterday live with Chad was awesome. Yeah, he is good people. Is a 372 a dyslexic 327? Yes. Probably does a little bit better in power than a 327. Southern Hemisphere is always best when the Welsh rugby teams are on tour. So you're South Coast? Did you pay your power bill? Yeah. $10 million, thank you for showing the dyno sheets during the narration. Yeah, we're doing this. I'm doing StreamYard now, and so we'll be able to show more of that stuff and when we're talking about things, even on the live feeds. Old school says larger bore pulls more fuel in. New school says more piston speed pours more fuel in. I guess fuel gets in the cylinder. Yeah. You ordered any parts for a Fox yet? Have I ordered any for mine? We have I have cylinder heads for the LS. I have cylinder heads and rods and pistons coming. Yes, dynographs are up. These days, a 425 block is 3,000. 350 blocks are 150. 383 works. That's an excellent point. That has nothing to do with this, what I think is a silly argument between which of those is better for power. That's a for the vast majority of people, Mike, that's a much more important issue since it's 10 times. Scotch, what's going on? Have you ever heard of Big Dog Porting? I have heard of them, but I haven't tested anything. I'd like to try their Cobra manifolds actually. The price of orange juice is up. What's going on there? The red light had only made noise at idle. Okay. 3 all the way. For the 3 block is thicker between the cylinders, so overheating can be issued with 400 blocks. Well, 400 is a Siamese bore block. asking because I've located this company that will do stage 2. I'm sure you mean port and flow test them prior to sending out. Yeah, I think that those guys have a lot of experience with the small block Ford stuff. I think that they've done a lot of that. And so I would be surprised if they don't have, specific port jobs that they've done to a variety of different heads, I'll bet, even more than just the stock ones. 383 for the win. In fact, that reminds me, I wanted to check the pricing on something. Stage 2, 5-liter cam. What is that? Yeah, see, that's a much better deal. Let's see. Okay, so that's 349. I'm going to see eBay Michigan. So why doesn't it come up? Summit. Chevy. Got some track flow cams. Got them track flows. Okay, so it is 346. Okay, but that's much better than that's the one I've been telling people. Okay, so you guys that are, I obviously been telling you about for years and years and years about the comp 274 cam, which is a 224 232. You should get the Summit version of that. Get the trick flow version, which is a stage 2 cam. Same spec, same performance. It's just a whole bunch less money. Working on a 2007 F-150 from Texas. Damn thing looks brand new underneath. Not exaggeration, brand new. Like a road salt down there. Yeah, if it's not in the Midwest or the Bible Belt or the anywhere where they have road salt, is bad. It can even be bad here in California if it's something from the Tahoe area. Can get bad because they get snow. Not from what I've learned from Richard Holden. More cues is more power. More power is better. Relaunch the poll. I can't put a poll in. All I can do is make posts. Lloyd Elliott's work is phenomenal and not real expensive. Keep in mind shipping and insurance costs money. Does Lloyd Elliott do small block Fords? I thought he was the go-to guy for I thought he was the LT1 guy. Although not that guys at port heads can't port heads and of all the different manufacturers. Ordered the BTR LS7 lifters from your store. Should get them tomorrow. Very good. Thank you for the order. Figure out what transmission you're going to run. No, I'm going to talk to the guys at American Powertrain about that. I think it's a TKO trans, but it was for my 5-liter, and I don't know if that's going to work. Did you and your son get the wing on? We did not yet. He was supposed to do that with me this weekend. Run 372 and a 383 through a Spintron, I'm sure you mean, to see which one has more harmonic than the other. Utah, what's going on? Just pick up a 383 complete, disassembled engine, just missing cam lifters for $280. First time building an engine, so I'm excited. Where did you find a 383 for? The argument ultimately comes down to where do you want the power and torque. I think if you take a 383 and a 372 and you put the same heads on them and the same compression, the same camshaft, and the same intake manifold, that they make power in the same RPM range. My dad has a 72 Monte Carlo with a 400. Good. 30 over, Vortec heads. Needed steam ports drilled. Talked at a 377, but no replacement for displacement. Theory killed that idea. He said it rev higher for less stroke. Said they ran them all the time in dirt track. .400 is externally balanced. It is different. the yeah, external counterweights. Okay, I thought that it was. He has quite a bit of videos. I'm looking at Chinese air gap stage 2 flows 300. However, should I be concerned that you'd lose low end torque due to the port work? Turbo fixes everything. Well, Raptor, are you? What is your combination? I can't remember all the combinations. You don't need a 300 CFM intake manifold for a turbo application. You don't need to port anything a lot of times, depending on what motor it is and what head it is. It's 3 years since the build you gave advice on, still running strong. Great. 400 block steam holes are not needed if you use a high pressure water pump like a Stewart. Found out today why I broke the rocker arm studs. The push rods are rubbing the Scorpion rockers at full lift. Push rods are too long. Thought I had the geometry right. 383 is popular and easy to get. Yeah, there's lots of 383 like stroker kits and piston combinations. I thought they started at 9. Yeah, I started earlier tonight. Normally I start at 7 Pacific, Pacific Standard Time. You still have the TPI intake modified for the LT1, and would you part with it? I don't have that. That belonged to TPIS. I believe you can use the Tico trans, just change the bell housing. I don't think that the input shaft is going to be the same either, right? And that's not a big deal. You just have a clutch with a different input pattern. I saw some Texas no prep ice drags that happened over the break. Pretty doing snowmobiles. Facebook Marketplace, all machine work already done. I'll be replacing a 305. That'll be a noticeable difference then. TCI Rattler. We ran a bunch of those because Westech had a bunch of them in stock, and the guys had supplied, and so we used quite a few of them and stuff that we put together. Might change out the BTR LSA LS9 PDS cam for the new version after talking to Brian the other night. It was nice to see him. Yeah, Brian's going to be on Tuesday. So this Tuesday, Brian will be on, and hopefully we're going to be talking. The goal was for us to be talking about the in-cylinder pressure testing that he's been doing with, and they did it recently with one that they did from, I think it's Power Auto Media. They did the 6.6 liter motor, and so they had a bunch of, and they did it NA and supercharged. So there should be some good information there. 306 GT40 iron, twin GT35 Summit camshaft. I was debating if I wanted Edelbrock air gap over my Victor single plane. However, Tony offered his intake that outflows Edelbrock for $70. Yeah, $70, you can't go wrong. But again, the thing that I'd be worried about more than the intake, much more than the intake, is we know that the intake manifold, an air gap intake manifold will support way more power than you're making with those heads. And you don't actually care that the intake flows more than a Victor Jr., because that's not why it's going to make more power. It's going to make a different power curve because it's a different intake design. What's a Cleveland or Windsor equivalent of a 383? Well, you can make a 383s out of both of those. Or you could make a 392 out of the, I've seen those on both Clevelands and Windsors also. 377 would be my pick for dirt track oval, big torque, down low, hard to hook up on dirt. Dirt usually operating 7,000 to 8,000. I was just thinking along the lines of when I decided to go to a Ford stroker kit. You won't need it if you have boost. If you're just doing an NA one, then you could do a ported intake. But you don't need a ported intake manifold with those heads, because that air gap already outflows those heads by quite a bit. And then a ported one's going to flow even more. So unless you get better heads, the intake manifold is going to be of limited value. My 383 came with 882 heads. Are these worth using, or should I invest in some aftermarket heads? Those are not good heads. An 882 doesn't flow very well, and also has really big, bad design chambers, unfortunately. So, I mean, it doesn't flow any like terribly worse than any of the other small block heads, but it's not as good as like a Fuelie head, and it's not as good as a Vortec head from the stock ones. Any sort of aluminum aftermarket head would be better. Look at an AFR Enforcer, Skip White, or those kinds of things. Rover, what's going on? Any trouble with the gudgeon pin being so high up in the piston? Remember, I have 210 Pro Max heads sitting in a box of the stroker. Okay, well, then you could use some intake for 210s. That would help. They're just sitting around looking good. That's okay. Especially if they're ported, then they look really good and you haven't like dirtied them up. I'd rather tear up my ported GT40s, get it right before we throw away $2,800 heads. Yeah, it's a good idea. Get it working, and because 7 pounds or whatever on anything is going to be good. And you know, if you have a 302, you're just going to break the block anyways with what you have. What rules do you follow for nitrous? Mine are no more than 50% shot of NA. Always pull more timing than needed. You can always add it back. Run on the richer side. Lean melts pistons. Yeah, nitrous guys anymore are not running it really high are not running them really rich. They don't do that anymore, because their argument is that the added fuel can help promote detonation. They don't run them lean, but they don't run them rich. And 50% seems like a realistic thing. Any more than that, it starts getting hard. And we if we're doing testing, we would take timing out of it, especially if we're running on pump gas. On 100 shot, we don't, with good gas in it, we don't take any timing away. But you know, that's user's preference. But it is a good idea if you're like, if we were putting a nitrous kit on a 91 octane thing, we would take timing out of it. And if you're going to start with that, start by pulling more timing rather than less timing. And then, you know, work your way up. Work your way from safe to it's not safe anymore. Or it might be getting kind of spicy. Spicy is nicey. That's right. That was an unfortunate rhyme, but that's so good. So we'll switch over. There's our big power curve. Wow. So for guys who want to know, it goes from right here to right here. Wow, wow. And this is torque. You can see when we do it, the torque has a descending torque gain because we're past 52. All the fancy stuff that you learn. Remember watching Freiberger on Antique Engine Masters? Antique Engine Masters, talking about air gap would murder the Victor Juniors due to the extra meat down low, below 4,500. Yeah, there's always a crossover between an RPM air gap and a Victor Junior, and depending on how mild the combination is, the wilder the combination or the bigger the combination, usually the earlier the crossover is, especially with displacement. But the air gap is going to be better through a lot of the curve, either on a small block Ford or small block Chevy. The RPM air gap is usually the way to go. Well, I wanted to do a TPI 383. What would you recommend as far as ECU goes? Yeah, Terminator X works fine. There's a lot of good ones. The Haltech makes a good one. There's a lot of, and there's some inexpensive ones that you could use. The MS3 Pro, we use the Holley stuff a lot. Add more timing until it blows up, then pull back 2 degrees. That's like tightening it till it strips and then back it off half a turn. What are your thoughts on upgrading aluminum block main journal threads to helicoil as opposed to just leaving the block aluminum threads for Rover? I don't know. I don't know anything about that block. Is there a strength issue there? So is that problematic? I think if I was doing that and it was going into aluminum, then I would definitely be thinking studs. Figure for an engine, I don't want to turn more than 6,500. I'll take you up on the dual plane with iron heads, just trying to find the best deal for an air gap. Yeah, and you could get the offshore ones are fine. For those, they work good. Get a Speedmaster or any of those. Those work good. They even have polished ones, which are kind of fancy. But yeah, for that, I don't remember how much camshaft you have, but I think you may have told me, but the with those heads, yeah, a single plate is not going to be the way to go. Oh, F303 cam. Okay, yeah. No, you're square in the RPM air gap territory. Considering the massive torque potential on a TPI, why do you think GM never put any into the trucks and stuck with a TBI system? For cost, tune port setup was both more expensive, I'm sure, to produce, and then also more expensive to assemble, I think, for the motors. So they did it on smaller batch runs. And they were able to achieve their desired combination of power and torque and longevity and, cost and all those things with what they had on the TBI system. Jet Black, my Project Rammer 4 has longer rods, diamond pistons, captured aluminum buttons. Lunchbox is out. I was looking at the problem as it can cause ring flutter. Those button inserts is where my research led me. Yeah, that was pretty common on the 347 Ford stuff back in the day. Captured pin buttons never touch the cylinder walls. 94 roller 351. I have DO2E heads. Should I use them or go to GT40? The older heads have 54cc chambers. Why are they that small? Were they that small from the factory, or have they been milled a bunch? It has soft metal valve seats and flow less, but more compression. What are you trying to achieve? Are you going to run boost on this ever or anything? I think I'd pick GT40s over the earlier 351 heads. Just thinking about beefing up the bottom end to help with the lower boost. Just one line item. Should have started spraying at 3,500, show some torque. Yeah, it would have made more. Just trying to make 500 horsepower for a little 66 Mustang. We want to hit the track come June. You weren't the one asking me about the Kenny Bell blower though, right? Somebody's asking me about making 500 with the Kenny Bell. Mark, I don't know what you mean by the earlier test vehicles. I'm looking to use shorter forge rods, helicoils, modern rings, and whatever else may help. Okay. You've raised your RPM range to 4,000. Have you changed the start RPM range, or is that still the same? Oh, turbo. Okay, there you go. How big of a cam fits stock LQ4 6.5 cc dish piston? If it's any kind of factory piston, the piston to valve clearance on a flat top piston is the same as it is on a dish piston, because where the valve hits overhangs where there's no dish on the factory dish pistons. So that doesn't matter. But you can usually fit something in the mid 230s depending on the valve events. If you tell me how much power you're trying to make, I can help steer you in the right direction of a camshaft. Eric, that's going to be your song, If Only I Had a Garage. First one's that whatever's new real world testing versus prototype stuff. Are you talking about the OEMs doing? Who gets to see prototype stuff on OEM testing? So do we? Okay, I'll put a post up. Okay. Question is, do we need to have more interviews like I did with Chad on the live feed? And should they include technical discussions like in-cylinder pressure data? So do we also want it, not just, I mean, Chad and I were just getting kind of together as friends and talking about stuff, but should we do technical stuff too? Because I've already got some yeses from people on coming on for interviews. Customers are always the final testers. Why people say not to buy the first year of a major redesign. Yeah, I think that's kind of old school thinking, though. I don't think we see nearly as much of that anymore. Curtis, your block is a truck right now, is E7 heads, 84 4x4 with 4-speed 33s. Block is 94 roller. Okay. So, Curtis, what is your goal for that? Okay. Yeah, I still am leaning. I mean, if you want to mill the GT40 heads, you can do that. 7,000 RPM for a street motor is good. Make it fun merging onto the freeway. There you go. I am compromising here, so be delicate. I'm thinking 3 psi at 1,800 RPM with the ultra long runners and balance long two pairs. Are you going full visor balance long, not equal length headers? I'm looking for 750 wheel horsepower. Should I even worry about a camera? Just run full stock with turbos. Marshall, what motor was yours? I have a 72 354 bolt. Can I get 500 horsepower from that block? Yeah, the block won't care about that at all. Neil, you're saying that we don't need to do the technical discussions. Would it be interesting? BNR wants yes. Interviewers are always great. It mixes things up. Sure, yes. Big yes. Yes, more interviews. Not all the time. No, we're not doing it all the time. We'll do it once a week or something like that. Get Cotton on to promote his channel. I don't know who Cotton is. Torque curves. Yeah, the torque curve is up, BNR. Bring on Eric after his Ford Cam Challenge. I'm sure that should be a lot of good discussion stuff there. My old school thinking, if you have plenty of money. Yeah. No, I get it. I understand that. Let somebody else work out the problems, Mark, and then you swoop in and go, okay, now you've cleared all that out, cleared out all the riffraff. Marshall, 750. If you're wanting 750 at the tire, it's gonna have to be a cammed one. It'll be a lot easier. $750 it'd take a lot of boost, but you could get there if you wanted. It'd be hard on pump gas. It'd be a lot less boost if you just put a cam in it. Get a big, tall, drag slick plexiglass, make a table and 2 or 3 bar stools, do some round table. Do you mean invite people here to my house? The other thing that I can do, let me know, this will be another question I'll have for you guys. Curtis, you're going to buy GT40 heads? Yep. Yeah, that's right. BS, you're going to go full visor on it. Storytelling during interviews. Visor my headers. Not anytime soon. But we need to try out so I can get the last 3 horsepower for my Supra. Maxing the low end torque is key, but truth be told, the properly ordered 8.4 2-in-1 exhaust sounds really nice. Danny, you want to know what a centrifugal supercharger power band is versus a twin screw versus a TVS? If you look up on my channel, there's 3 videos where we ran all of those different blowers and turbos and stuff, and you can see 383 has a lot more torque. I don't know what you're talking about. Those aren't 383s or that's nitrous on the thing that's up. Visor has maxing that low end torque is key, but truth be told, the properly ordered. Okay, you did that. I didn't lose power. I'm here. No, I'm still here. Here, I'll even switch that over to you. See, look at that. Danny, the quarter mile is the discussion isn't the power band for the quarter mile. Those two things don't go together. There's way more to decide. So you got to look at also traction and issues for that. T, I didn't lose power. Everybody should still be able to see and hear me. Everything's good. There should be no change. In fact, we'll get rid of that. Like, let's get rid of that. And see, now it's just me. Can everybody still see and hear me? Can you... I'll do this even better. Can you dig it? There we go. All I got done today is build new taillights for my 83 FJ60 Land Cruiser. Very nice. See, I could do that, or I could do this. Add to the stage. Look at that. Put our power curve back up there. Biggest difference in the quarter mile could be the nut behind the wheel. Well, and the other thing to consider about those, like we can look at the power curves, the difference in the power curves on all of those. But we have to decide, okay, what is the metric? Okay, they all need to make the same boost. Okay, what is the motor we're starting with? Are we starting with something that's going to make 2,000 horsepower? Are we starting with something that's going to make 1,000? Is it going to be 500? Because at each one of those things, we're going to be concerned, like if he wants to drag race, if he wants to see what's best for drag racing, what's best. Do we have a traction problem to deal with where we're going to have to take away a bunch of the power of one of those because it makes too much low speed power? And all of those would be considerations. We'd have to figure all that out. And it does sound like you got one of those electric diaphragm pumps running. Oh, yeah, whatever. Those are the hard drives. Good starter mods for a 4.8 liter. Cam is what most people do, but you could do a tune, you could do an air intake, you could do exhaust like headers or even just a catback or something. I don't know what car it's in or vehicle that it's in. But a cam is going to be the biggest thing. Boost is even better. I got a gas-powered Helen flooded golf cart, 6-seater. Has a 1-cylinder Yamaha engine, centrifugal clutch. I try to hot rod it with flow or a different engine. Okay. Does it run right now? Have you emptied all the water out of it and got it running? Yeah, Joshua, you could definitely get more power with a tune on that. A converter, gears, all of that stuff will work for that. I think the 400 would be more pricey versus the 350, but the 377 being D-strokes, same bore, has 3 but less stroke would have more dwell time and run better. 383 and a 377 don't have the same bore. Whipple versus Magnuson. Are you talking about a twin screw versus a TVSS, and you have to tell me exactly which ones you're talking about. But I've done lots of testing of twin screws versus roots blowers. The TVS is a little bit, the TVS like 2650, for instance, is a really good blower for the power range that you can make with that size blower. It's empty, found it had compression issues before the storm. So these rings, haven't fired it up yet, but it's clean. Okay, cool. No, Curtis, the 377 is 4125 and the 383 is a 4030. Pumps make flow. M90, M112 are named after their displacement. Reliability of either or the same. Again, you'd have to get more specific than that. There's no generic thing for roots blowers are more efficient or more reliable than any other blower. You know, you'd have to talk about specific ones. Have I run any crank-driven Pro Chargers on the dyno? I never have. I've never had anything that we could utilize the size of the blowers that you'd normally run off of the crank. Todd, what's going on, man? I haven't heard from you. I have a 6-liter assembled once again, ready to bolt it into the truck. Okay. So did you... Please don't try to run it again with what you have before we fix it. Please just don't go out and put boost to it and hope for the best again. And please, let's fix what's going on with your thing before you do that. I don't want you to break it again. We want you to be able to go out and enjoy boost and not have to take it apart again. Be great to see you do a series on rings. Yeah, the ring thing, doing a ring test on an engine dyno is a difficult thing. People forget in the request for more power, what they actually seek is faster acceleration. And that can be achieved with other stuff, stall, gear, suspension, tires, weight reduction. Yeah, if what they're doing is, if their metric is acceleration, yeah, they could get it with other ways. The crankshaft supercharger meant for serious horsepower. Yeah, normally the ones that are directly driven off of the crank, they're doing it to try to eliminate, you know, any belt problems or whatever, and that the drive on those is because of the size of the supercharger. It's a lot. And so they're big. You know, you're talking about superchargers that are 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, whatever the number is. It's a whole bunch. And I've never run anything like that. I'm just not interested in that kind of testing for the how many ever people would be running those kinds of things. So Neil, you're doing the weight reduction thing? Would it be safe to gap rings on an engine you plan on boosting down the road? Yes. You can gap the rings at any time. It doesn't just work under boost. It works anytime that it just has, you just have more ring gap. It's fine. Steve Morse is always breaking his dynos. Yeah, you know, for a shop that's in business, obviously, to make money, having dynos down doesn't help you make money. And having a glory run, I mean, Steve is doing motors where he has to do that kind of stuff because those are the kinds of things that he's selling. But like for Westech, they don't have to have 2 or 3 or 4,000 horsepower motors on the dynos. There'd be no reason to do that. There'd be lots of reasons, in fact, not to do that. Because if you need to process through a whole bunch of 3, 4, 5, 800 horsepower, whatever motors that you're testing, and then you get paid for those, that's how you make money. And it doesn't make sense to go, oh, well, let's just do this hero thing and we look amazing, but oh, hey, look, we broke our dyno. Ever seen pictures of crank-driven roots blowers? Yeah, we've run Westech has run those at Westech for guys that have run Bonneville cars. Building aluminum 5.3 for my BJ60. Tired of no power. From a 3B diesel. Got the low buck truck springs the other day. Thank you very much. There. But you can't separate torque from horsepower when you're using a rotating assembly to turn wheels. One is work and one is work over time. And that's why they're linked. Yep, just say no. 1920s and 30s race cars had crank-driven blower setups. Yeah, they didn't care about the length of the nose on those. But for Bonneville, it's helpful so that you can package them for aerodynamics. Got a question on cam choice for an airboat, 6-liter, 706 heads, LQ9 pistons. You're doing a lot of compression in that thing, right? Max engine RPM with a prop is 5,500. And are you wanting to make power there, or where are you wanting to make power? I think I would get a low buck truck camshaft for that. But let me look at the 6-liter stuff and see where we were at. Time results. Here we go. Final stock one. Yeah, the low buck truck cam is basically better everywhere. And at 5,500, I mean, it gets gains farther out than that, but 430 to 485. So it's 55 or 56 horsepower better at 5,500, but better all the way through. There might be a smaller cam that would be better. I don't know how much RPM you're using. You want the power at 5,500 to be in the 5,000 range, in the 500 range. You're not going to do that. You won't make 500 horsepower at 5,500 with a 6-liter and a stock 706 head. That's not going to happen. You would with a ported stock. We would with a ported 706 head. The videos of diesel trucks, yeah, the run-on ones, yeah, that's crazy. A lot of the World War II aircraft engines were huge and used nitrous and the highest octane fuel available. Yeah, you're going to need ported heads to do that. Because when we made 500 with 706 heads, let's see here. It took a big cam, but it didn't really do very well. Let's see here. So stock 706 heads and a 55 made 513. Those are the 415 cam, but it made peak power at 6,400 though. 6,300, 6,400. At 5,500, it was 493. So porting would definitely get you to, let's see here. That's a Dorman LS2 intake manifold. So yeah, if you port the head, it'll be a lot easier. If you're going to use a stock 706 head, I think on that, I probably at 5,500, I think I would pick a milled 799 or 243 head. And then if you put a fast intake manifold on it and headers on it, you'll be at 500. Head selection. CRT, what do you need for power below that 5,500 RPM range? How much are you using the RPM below that? Or is this more like, I don't know what a prop boat does. I mean, a fan boat does. I don't know if you're just at like wide open throttle all the time. Is the drivability important? Do you want more low speed power? Like what else is happening there? Head selection is open. Yeah, you could pick at 5,500. I would even pick a factory rec port head, but I don't know what one you have. Richard, have you dealt with TA Performance in Arizona, Buick stuff? Yes, I have. I like the guys there. Well, what are you trying to get, BS? I hope my 540 big block that Richard's helping pick a camper will move mountains. Hopefully have a torque north of 675 foot-pounds. That number seems like a lot to me. What did the 540s that I did make? Do you remember? Let's go to the data. Strokers. Carcraft Blueprint 540. How did that one do? So that one made 700 and 669 foot-pounds. And that didn't have great heads on it. It had Blueprint heads on it. It had a 248, 254 cam, an Edelrock 454R Dominator version of that intake manifold, and a 1050 Dominator on it. And it was 10-1. So with an airflow research head and a tunnel ram, I think you're there. Would you spec a transmission for the engine's power band, or go the other way and build an engine for how you want that car geared? For what application are you talking about, Thomas? Can I take my Lakey bolt out, thread sealer, and put it back in, or would it compromise the gasket? No, but you'll want to, if that bolt goes down into water, you're gonna have to drain the water, and then I would blow it off. And then I would put the bolt in. But you can take one bolt off and it's not going to hurt the head gasket at all. Needs torque to get up on the water at 75 to 90% throttle all the time. So what RPM range does it run in? That's what I need to know. The prop drags the engine because it's 1-to-1. I get that. Always caught that airplane type engines were kind of low RPMs, just judging by how they sound. Light aircraft has maximum RPM. Yeah, but what he's talking about is not that, though. Thomas, your thing is road racing. Let's see. Usually people build the engines to the maximum specs of the class, and then you just gear it accordingly. Hydraulic heads flow more than AFR heads on the 540. Okay. $4,000, $5,500, $5,800 on a good day. Okay. TA Performance, they have a small block Buick hydraulic roller cam that will fit the 4.6 Rover. Okay. Cool. All right, Mark, we'll see you later, man. Need to go wrench on cars for minimum wage. I know what that's like. We got one more minute. CRT, I think you could get there, and I think that you would be happy on that 6-liter. Let's see what the power curve looks like on that one. Data results. Where's that one? Okay. This was an otherwise stock one. Yeah, so you're a 6-liter, even with the low buck truck camshaft, which I think I would pick over these bigger cams at 5,500, is going to get you near 500. This one, but this was with a rec port head though, I think. Yeah, this was with an LY6. You can get more low-speed power with a 706 and a fast intake manifold. If you have a rec port head on it, don't get a fast intake manifold. If you want to put an aftermarket head on, or a 799, a milled 799 will do it. But either the low buck truck, which would be good for the RPM range that you're running, or maybe even the truck plus camshaft. So either one of those will work, and just tell me a little bit more about what cylinder head you want. And I can get LY6 heads if they get the number. Yeah, an LY6 head will definitely give you more peak power at 5,500. The thing that I'm worried about is they're going to lose power up to like 4,000. And I just don't think that that's a good choice. I would rather see a milled 799 and then something that would be ported. Like if you could have your 799s done by the guys at K-Tech maybe, or an aftermarket head, like a set of 220 ASCAS trick flow heads, or an Airflow Research Enforcer cathedral head, if they have that. Those are good. Any of those will get you what you want. They will make that power. And on that note, see, we're going to close that out. We're going to move that out. See, this was our other thing. This is our power curve. We'll get rid of those. Move from studio. And now it's just me. Now you got all me all the time. Thank you guys all for showing up. I will be back tomorrow.